Okay, John, thanks ever so much for taking the time to speak to us today. It's always a pleasure to work with you. Today is just really an exploratory chat about what your experience has been like with working with Sustain Commercial Solar, and to find out if there's any areas of improvement for us or anything we could do different in the future, and just to find out a little bit more about your journey. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, so what I'll do is start with the opening question, and then it'll feel like we're coming back to it. But what was partnering? Has partnering with Sustain Commercial Solar led to any significant financial benefits, reduction in cost, or increased profits in the business?
Certainly not increased profits, because we're a not-for-profit company, but cost savings is evident in that we are using about 50% less electricity per month. Now, there will be a little bit of evening out over the year, but I've just spoke to our head of finance, and in real terms, there is of what we had predicted, there is a savings of about £1,500 per month. Now, how accurate that will be over the whole year, I don't know, but there is significant savings. But as I said to you before, Yanni, it's more important to me now that we're also saving on energy usage. And there is no doubt that the care industry will be roped into the overall journey of being eco-friendly, being green, being sustainable, and we're taking our first step on that ladder.
Excellent. Thanks for that, John. Yeah, some really interesting insights there. And it is, I think overall, it's about reducing exposure to the grid as much as possible, because the fluctations in the market, the future-proofing yourself against future rises, it's so important. So just taking a step back, your business, as you've said, is a not-for-profit. Can you briefly introduce the business, describe what industry sector you're in and how you fit into the...
Yeah, absolutely. SheffCare Limited is a Sheffield-based not-for-profit charity that delivers adult social care across 9 sites, all in Sheffield, to people who need residential care, and more than half now for people living with dementia.
Excellent, excellent. And how many beds have you got across the 9 sites?
Across the 9, we've got 456, of which generally we've got about 400 occupied at any one time. I'm confident that in the near future that will creep up as we've got over the COVID hiccup.
Yeah, I mean, look, COVID had an impact on all of us.
Please don't ask me exactly what that means.
No more so than in the care sector.
But part of it is looking at the environmental side of things. We're out of it. Coupled to the health and safety.
And what's your role
sustainability?
In the company,
I'm the director of facilities, but my dealing with you guys was very much on the energy side, which is a big cost factor for us outside of probably food and wages. It is our highest expenditure, and therefore looking for the future and becoming more sustainable was an imperative for us.
That's excellent, and you're right. What we're seeing is that energy is the second or third biggest cost on a company's balance sheet. You know, it's the third biggest cost in a company's business. It's usually behind staff, lease and rent, then energy. Now, in some spa sector scenarios where they're really heavy on energy, it's sometimes the second biggest cost in their business. And as you've outlined, you know, the grid at the moment is the cheapest rate in the market today is 26 to 28 pence. By putting solar installations in, it basically fixes the cost of solar over the total course of the lifetime to 3 pence a kilowatt hour, somewhere in that order. So it's a really effective way of addressing that. So staying on the theme of energy in your business, before partnering with Sustain, how did your business approach energy consumption and costs? What was your approach to that?
Oh, now that's quite a difficult. We're in care, so there is only so much you can do to lessen the energy burden. an elderly person needs to be heated,
Yeah.
in a nutshell. And so you're just pragmatic about it. And also, our buildings are relatively aging, and therefore not that easy to move across to new industries, whether that's renewable or whatever. But as I said to you before, there was no doubt in my mind that the only real option for us to do something significant was solar. And hence we partnered with you on one of our sites.
Yeah. Okay. Look, the energy, as you've sort of outlined, the energy crisis created an awful lot of problems for a lot of people. To give you an example, some of my leisure centres saw their cost of energy go from 10 pence a kilowatt hour up to 70 pence a kilowatt hour, which in real terms meant that they were going from £15,000 a month bill to £110,000 a month bill. It was absolutely eye-watering. I mean, how did the energy crisis affect your business?
Being very honest, not as badly as what you would imagine, because we were in fixed contracts, which were extremely advantageous. The danger was we started then planning of how to come out of those fixed contracts into what was a nightmare scenario. And you gave an example. Well, our gas, we were on 1.6p per unit. We'd have gone to something like 19 or 20p. That would have taken our expenditure to £2.2 million a year. And that was unsustainable. So we got off with that because the crisis had gone away by the time our fixed contract. But with electricity, it was less cut and dry. When we started discussing with you, the prices that were being quoted were up to 70p, and we were on something like 18p at the time. So that would have been devastating for us, and again, unsustainable. I have little doubt that without central government intervention, companies as big as ours would have gone under. So yeah, on the cost side, it was apocalyptic at one stage. We have just hit it lucky that when we entered into new contracts, the back was broken and the cost went down.
Yeah, I remember the conversations we were having, and the market was incredibly volatile. I mean, we've seen stabilisation in it now. And we believe it's at the bottom, and it's 26, 28 pence a kilowatt hour is where the market sits today, and that's going to remain with us. It will go up. It may come back down to this level over the next 5-10 years, but this is where the bottom is on all the commentators, all the experts, Cornwall Insight. That's where it is. So, yeah, it's interesting to hear that the interventions were required and they were timely. I mean, after the solar partnership, after installing, your system with us, what improvements have you noticed in the business operations, finances?
Now, again, I couldn't put any finger on it apart from we are saving money, we are saving energy. It's clearly a statement to everybody around that we are interested in sustainability. And we've had even our local council, we've had them come round and they're very interested in that, and they want to know how we've done it because they may dip their toe in the market. So I think as an example more than anything, I don't know of any other care home in Sheffield that has gone to solar power to the extent that we have, but there may be. I just don't know of one.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're doing a lot in lots of different sectors because the solution's applicable to anyone with a roof and an electric cost. It's future proofing. But we hear time and time again, John, the objections. It doesn't work. It's unreliable. Return on investment's too long. Requires constant maintenance. What's your views around that?
We've had zero maintenance. I have not noticed any issues detrimental at all. No, I mean, everything to us is an advantage. I have not seen one disadvantage as yet. Nothing's gone wrong. It's delivered exactly what you predicted. It is reliable, and that is evidenced in that every month when I get the invoice for a like-for-like building, it is significantly cheaper. And so, for us, it's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same story we hear from client after client. I mean, from a personal perspective, we're seeing more activity in this market than any other time. But it still surprises me that more companies aren't, really harnessing this opportunity to reduce what the second or third biggest cost in their business.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for other people. We're on a tight budget. I've always described SheffCare. We were started because the local authorities could not keep care homes going. But de facto from that is that the residents we have are people who can't afford their own care, and therefore they're funded from us, the taxpayer. But we do that with pride, and we are sitting on the bottom rung of adult social care economically, but we cut our cloth to fit the suit. And several years ago, when I raised solar and various options of how to put it on, it just was not viable for us because the cost of electricity in those days just didn't make it the right option. But now, and I agree with you, electricity prices will not go down from where they are now. And it makes it that we are seriously looking at all of our sites where it is viable to put it on. Not every care home is pointing in the right direction, but where it is and there is an economy of scale, we will definitely be looking at it at the future. And indeed, we have spoken about one other site, which we're tentatively picking our way through now.
Yeah, no, absolutely right, John. And I mean, on that point about historically, solar was expensive. The generation per panel was a lot less. I mean, look, just to give you some idea, in 2010, we were paying £1.65 for a watt of energy on a solar panel. Today, we're paying less than 25 pence. So it's the cost has gone plummeted. The output in the same time frame, 2010, we were getting out of panels that we used on your building 100 watts of energy. Today we're getting over 420 from the same size panel. So output's gone up, cost has come down, which means it's an incredibly viable solution. For like you say, the right orientation of roof, the right type of building, and if it fits, then it's just a way of saving money. So just choosing last couple of questions, John, is like really your decision-making process in choosing the provider. Why did you choose Sustained Commercial Solar out of interest?
A very professional, inclusive approach. So on the meeting we had initially, it was the bare bones. When we started to move forward, the whole of your management team was there. I could ask any questions. I could settle my mind on, I think there's a couple of things I just need a clarification on. And so that made me confident and happy to proceed with you guys. It is a big contract, and our rules will always make us tender the process.
Yeah.
But you were successful at the tender, and in the future we will see. But I would see no reason why not, because part of what we consider is what's happened in the past. And what I will say is that you started when you said you were going to start, you delivered when you said you were going to deliver, you finished when you said you were going to finish, you handed over when you said you were going to hand over. To be perfectly honest, it was a very smooth period, and something that I was very nervous about, because it's not an area I know a huge amount, but it just happened, and I was delighted with that.
Great, and we're very mindful, especially in environments like yours, that disruption is such a big consideration. You know, you've got residents on site who this is their home, and you know, look, they don't care where the energy's coming from. They want to plug in, and that's the end of it. So minimal disruption around your day-to-day working operations is massive for us. I mean, look, you've already kind of answered it, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy would you be to recommend us, and you know, what would you say to another business considering adding solar to their operation?
Well, to the last question, I would say it's up to them, because the fundamentals has got to work for them. But yeah, I would say work for us, and if it can work for a care home, it should be able to work for most businesses. And I would recommend your company based on what I've seen, what has been delivered, and what was promised and what was delivered. And you know, I can't say more than that.
Thanks, John. No, that's really helpful. And like you say, you've already touched on the ESG piece, the decarbonisation, the move towards net zero. It ticks a lot of boxes. I'm glad we're helping you, you know, meet your decarbonisation objectives and synchronise those with your commercial objectives. It's great to work with companies like yours. You know, it's for us, it's always interesting to find new challenges. Care homes are a slightly you know, unusual setup. Sometimes you've got multiple roofs, lots of different angles, but it's great to be adding value to your operation, and we hope to continue to develop that relationship.